As the wind howled on the edge of a towering mountain, a scream echoed into the deep valley below. A pregnant woman tumbled off the cliff, pushed by the man she loved most. But what he didn't know was that the fall would not only expose his darkest secrets, it would also trigger a chain of betrayal that even he wasn't prepared for. From the outside, Pastor Kenneth and Zara were the embodiment of a fairy-tale love story, picture-perfect, blessed, and deeply admired. They were the golden couple of Okibadan. Every Sunday, they stood side by side on the altar, Kenneth, towering in his well-tailored suits, commanding the pulpit with thunderous charisma, and Zara, soft-spoken and regal in her flowing gowns, a vision of grace and humility. When she smiled, it was as though heaven itself had paused to watch. When Kenneth spoke, the congregation trembled as though the voice of God had poured through him. They had everything. Except one thing, a child. For 7 long years, Zara had been the subject of hushed gossip and pitying stares. A pastor's wife, barren, the elders would whisper. But she never let it break her. She prayed. She fasted. She served. Until finally, at the age of 38, Zara received her miracle. She was 3 months pregnant. The entire church erupted in celebration. There were parties, testimonies, tears of joy. Kenneth knelt before the congregation one Sunday with both arms raised to heaven, declaring, "The God that did it for me will do it for you." But deep inside, he was far from joyful. Something had shifted in Kenneth. Ever since Zara inherited her late father's massive fortune, 150 million naira, 2 properties, and shares in a construction company, Kenneth had started acting strange. He no longer reached for her hand in public. His eyes no longer lingered on her like they once did. He had become cold, calculating. Zara noticed. He had started coming home late. Church meetings, business trips, revivals. There were always excuses. And the once passionate husband now barely touched her growing belly. She told herself it was stress. But deep in her heart, she could feel it. He was slipping away. What Zara didn't know was that Kenneth had long stopped seeing her as a wife. He saw her now as an obstacle. Between him, her money, and a new life. One night, after pretending to be asleep, Zara overheard him whispering on the phone. "Once the baby is born, she'll want to change her will. It has to be now, before she starts thinking like a mother." The room spun. Zara blinked back tears as her husband gently ended the call, kissed her forehead, and rolled over. But her heart had already shattered. Amanda. That was her name. Elegant, seductive, dangerous. She wasn't just a woman in Kenneth's life. She was a storm. A former choir mistress turned boutique owner. Amanda knew how to make men kneel and how to disappear with their wallets still warm. She had beauty that turned heads and a tongue sharp enough to cut through steel. Her laughter could light up a room, or chill your spine, depending on what she wanted. Kenneth met her during one of the church's outreach programs in Abuja. She was supposed to be part of the hospitality team. Instead, she became his addiction. What started as stolen glances became late-night conversations, then hotel keys, and eventually a secret apartment he rented for her in town. She was younger, freer, and more adventurous than Zara. She wasn't interested in prayers or purity. She was interested in power. And money. Especially Zara's money. Kenneth, blinded by lust and ego, began to trust her with secrets he hadn't even shared with his own siblings. He told her everything, about Zara's inheritance, the documents, the joint accounts, the unborn child that now tied him to a woman he no longer loved. Amanda didn't flinch. In fact, she leaned in closer and whispered, "You love me, right? Then why are you still chained to her?" That was the seed. A week later, she came up with the idea. "You said she loves nature, right? Mountains and waterfalls. Perfect." Kenneth blinked. Perfect for what? Amanda smirked. An accident. At first, Kenneth hesitated. He was a pastor, a public figure, a man with a brand. But Amanda knew how to stroke both his ego and his guilt. "Do you think she would keep loving you if she found out about us? Do you think that baby is yours for sure? You're throwing away your future. For what? Pity." It worked. But what Kenneth didn't know was that Amanda wasn't alone in her plan. She had a secret, a husband. Julius, a tech fraudster, expelled from 3 countries, and currently living under a fake name. Julius and Amanda weren't just lovers. They were partners in crime. And together, they had played this game before. Wealthy men. Vulnerable hearts. Fake love. Poisoned endings. But Kenneth was their biggest catch yet, a well-known pastor, with millions at stake, and a fragile pregnant wife. It was almost too easy. Amanda kissed Kenneth one night, smiled sweetly, and whispered, "All you have to do is take her there. I'll handle the rest." Kenneth nodded, unaware that he was walking into his own trap. He believed he was planning a perfect crime. But the truth? He was the pawn in a much bigger game. It was a crisp Saturday morning, and the skies over Mount Kelechi were clear and blue, deceptively peaceful, like the calm before a deadly storm. Kenneth had told Zara it was a birthday surprise getaway. "We need time alone," he said, smiling warmly, his voice laced with false tenderness. "Just the 2 of us, and our little miracle." Zara had smiled weakly, her heart quietly aching but willing to believe, just for a moment, that her husband still loved her. She had packed her favorite yellow maternity gown, the one Kenneth used to say made her look like the sun, and braided her hair the night before. Maybe this trip would heal things. Maybe the man she married would resurface. But what she didn't know was that this trip had one final destination, her death. Mount Kelechi was a remote tourist attraction in southern Nigeria, known for its serene beauty, tall pine trees, and a cliff that dropped hundreds of feet into a jagged valley below. It was rarely crowded. The perfect place for a secret. Kenneth had arranged everything. A private car. No social media updates. No calls. No driver. Just the 2 of them. Zara marveled at the view when they arrived. She stood at the edge, her hands on her belly, her eyes closed as the breeze kissed her face. "This place is beautiful, Kenneth," she said, turning to him. "Thank you." But he wasn't looking at her. He was staring at her feet. Calculating. He walked up slowly behind her. Hugged her gently. She leaned into him. It was now or never. His hands moved lower, to her waist. Then a little lower. Her eyes widened. "Kenneth?" But it was too late. With one swift, brutal shove, Kenneth pushed his pregnant wife off the cliff. She didn't even scream at first. The shock froze her voice. But as her body dropped through the air, twisting and spinning, a final scream tore from her throat. So loud, so raw, that even the trees below trembled. And then, silence. Kenneth stood at the edge for a long time, staring into the abyss. A single bead of sweat rolled down his temple. It was done. No witnesses. No blood. No fingerprints. No trace. He pulled out his phone, scratched his voice to sound panicked, and made the call. "Hello? Police. Please, help me. My wife slipped. She fell. We were just walking, I swear. She fell. We were just walking, I swear. She fell." He wept, fake tears that came too easily for a man who had preached about God's love every Sunday. By the time help arrived, he was already rehearsing his eulogy. "She was the love of my life," he'd say. But in his heart, he was already planning his honeymoon with Amanda. Kenneth returned to the hotel that night drenched in false grief, clutching Zara's scarf like a widower lost in sorrow. The receptionist gave him a sympathetic smile as he stumbled toward the elevator. In his room, he collapsed onto the bed and closed his eyes, not in mourning, but in relief. It was done. The money. The freedom. The woman he truly desired. He reached for his phone and texted Amanda. "The bird has flown. We're free now, baby. Prepare the nest." She replied with a single red heart emoji and a photo of 2 wine glasses. 2 days later, Amanda's apartment. Amanda looked stunning in her crimson silk gown. Her body glistened from the spa she had just returned from, her nails freshly polished, her skin glowing. Kenneth arrived wearing dark shades and a designer hoodie, paranoid and restless. She welcomed him with a kiss that was slow, sensual, and deceptive. He handed her the inheritance documents, signed, sealed, and now hers. "You're looking at a 150 million Nigerian naira future," Kenneth whispered, planting another kiss on her shoulder. Amanda smiled, turned away, and poured 2 glasses of red wine. She handed one to him but didn't sip hers. Just watched him. He drank deeply. They danced that night, slow music playing, candles lit, the illusion of victory wrapping itself around Kenneth like a warm blanket. For the first time in weeks, he felt in control. Safe. But Amanda was only just getting started. The next morning, Kenneth woke up in an empty apartment. Amanda was gone. So was her phone, her clothes, her documents, and more importantly, the entire 150 million Nigerian nairas she had transferred to herself using the power of attorney he had signed the night before. At first, he thought she'd gone to the store. But by noon, he was pacing. By evening, he was dialing her number furiously. Switched off. Then, under his hotel door, he found a plain white envelope. He ripped it open and pulled out a handwritten note. Pink ink, neat cursive, and a kiss mark at the bottom. "Dear Pastor, you killed your wife for me. But I was never yours. I was always with my husband, Julius, the real man behind the plan. You thought you were the mastermind, but you were the mission. We used you. And now we've used your money. You'll find your reward in the wine. Amanda. P.S. Say hi to Zara when you get to hell." Kenneth's heart stopped. He rushed to the minibar, where the wine bottle from the night before sat half drunk. Suddenly, his stomach churned. His vision blurred. He dropped to the floor as blood poured from his nose and mouth. Hours later, emergency room. Doctors fought to save him. But the poison Amanda used was no ordinary substance. It was rare, undetectable, and irreversible. Julius had imported it from South Africa under a false company name. The moment it entered his bloodstream, Kenneth's organs began to shut down one by one. He died with Amanda's name on his lips. Not in love, but in regret. Meanwhile, Amanda and Julius were already far from Nigeria. Flying business class to Cape Town with fake passports, Amanda leaned into her husband and whispered. He thought he was the wolf. But even wolves bleed when the right hunter comes. They clinked champagne glasses and toasted to a perfect con. The morning after Amanda vanished, Kenneth sat on the edge of the hotel bed in disbelief. His phone lay in pieces on the floor. He had smashed it after calling Amanda's number 50 times, hearing the same mechanical voice. "The number you are trying to reach is switched off." His mind raced. This wasn't part of the plan. She loved him. She said they would be together. She kissed him, danced with him. She had looked into his eyes like she meant it. But the cold emptiness of the room said otherwise. On the desk near the minibar sat the wine bottle from the night before. Half full. Tainted. A lipstick-stained glass stood beside it, untouched. Next to it lay Amanda's final blow, the note. The words stabbed him deeper with every line. "You killed your wife for me, but I was never yours." He read it over and over again, hoping the words would somehow change. But they didn't. And neither did the dull ache rising in his chest. A trap. He had been played. Betrayed. Broken. His breathing grew heavy. Sweat trickled down his temple. He stood abruptly and staggered toward the bathroom to splash cold water on his face. But when he looked into the mirror, he barely recognized the man staring back. His eyes were bloodshot. His lips pale. And suddenly, his stomach twisted. He dropped to his knees, vomiting violently into the sink. First came bile. Then blood. Thick, dark blood. Panic erupted inside him like wildfire. He grabbed his phone, what remained of it, and tried to call the hotel reception. But his fingers were trembling. His vision blurred. He stumbled toward the door, barely managing to unlock it before collapsing into the hallway, gasping for air. An hour later, General Hospital, Okibadan. Kenneth was rushed in, unconscious, foaming at the mouth, his body convulsing. Doctors suspected food poisoning, until the toxicologist ran tests and found traces of a rare nerve agent in his bloodstream. One that attacked the organs slowly, shutting them down from the inside out. By the time the medical team realized what was happening, it was too late. His kidneys had failed. His lungs followed. His heart gave up next. And just before his brain shut down, Kenneth whispered two final words, barely audible. "Zara, forgive me." And then, darkness. The next day, breaking news. Popular pastor, Kenneth Adigbite, dies under suspicious circumstances after wife's tragic death at Mount Kelechi. Investigations ongoing. Sources say he may have been poisoned. Wife's death now considered a homicide. Social media exploded with theories. Some mourned. Some questioned. But the truth? Only Amanda and Julius knew the full story. They watched the news from a luxury villa in Cape Town, sipping champagne. Amanda smirked. "I told him to enjoy hell," she said coldly. Julius laughed. "He's there now, burning, while we enjoy his millions." They clinked their glasses again. But unknown to them, Zara wasn't in hell. She wasn't even dead. Meanwhile, deep in the valley below Mount Kelechi, Zara was alive. Miraculously, her body had landed on a tree before hitting the rocks, slowing the fall. A local hunter found her barely breathing and carried her to a traditional healer who kept her hidden for weeks. When she regained consciousness, she remembered everything. Kenneth's smile before the push, his arms, the betrayal. Her child had survived too. Zara didn't cry. She didn't scream. She planned. 3 months later, Zara returned to Okabadan wearing a black veil and dark glasses. She didn't go home. She went straight to the courthouse, with evidence. Before the trip, she had secretly recorded some of Kenneth's suspicious conversations and financial moves. The police reopened the case. Amanda and her husband were declared wanted for conspiracy and theft. But Zara didn't care about revenge anymore. She had something better: the truth and her unborn child. She bought a small house near a school and lived quietly, opening a foundation for women who had been betrayed or abused.
Hey, oh.